Thank you for joining us for our 3MT prep session. My name is Christine Torres. I am the Assistant Director for the Pioneer Center for Student Excellence, and I also serve as a 3MT coordinator for Texas Women's University. I am located on the Houston campus. I will be your only contact for 3MT. So if you have questions throughout this process, you need some help, some guidance, you're stuck, you don't know how to move forward, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. My contact information is listed here. So let's talk about 3MT. What we're going to be discussing today is we're going to be discussing drafting your content for your 3MT. We're going to talk about the slide requirements, what's actually required on the slide, talk about presentation, recording, and then submitting your 3MT submission. So our 3MT, drafting your content. When you are preparing your 3MT content, it would be very beneficial if you start off with drafting your material. Whatever works best for you, if you want to write it out, if you want to create an outline, if you just know what you want to say, maybe record yourself and then transcribe it so then you can go back and do some editing. But the transcribe feature is very helpful. If you do not know how to do that, I'm happy to show you how to do that. But just some advice when you are drafting, avoid jargon and academic language. This is very hard. If you've ever been in a position where you've had to explain what your research is or what your research will be, it's very hard to bring it down into language that is understood by people outside of your area. So what I recommend is that you just write. Do not refrain from using jargon and academic language. Let's just get it all out. This process is called a brain dump. Once you get it all out, then you can go back and you can replace those words that might come across as academic language or only language or terms that are recognized within your field. You want to make sure that you're explaining concepts and people important to your research. You may know all of Professor Smith's theories, but your audience may not, okay? You want to make sure that you highlight the outcomes of your research and the desired outcome. Imagine that you were explaining your research to a close friend or fellow student from another field. So somebody who is not familiar with your area, your content, your field, your research, your work. You want to convey your excitement and enthusiasm for your subject. So this is also very important. As you recall from the first part of the presentation, this is one of the things that the judging criteria looks at. So you want to make sure that you're incorporating your excitement and enthusiasm for your subject. What not to do? You do not want to write your presentation like an academic paper. You want to try to use shorter words, and you want to try to use shorter sentences and paragraphs. You can use humor, but you have to be careful not to devalue your presentation. You might be interested in telling a story. You may like to present your 3MT as a narrative with a beginning, a middle, and an end. These are just suggestions. It's not easy to condense your research into 3 minutes, so you might find it easier to break your presentation down into smaller sections. This is called chunking. You're just breaking it down into smaller sections, but you actually have a narrative, a beginning, a middle, and an end. Try writing an opener to catch the attention of the audience, then highlight your different points, and finally, have a summary to restate the importance of your work. And then try to get this all done in 3 minutes. You want to have a clear outcome in mind. So this is part of the drafting process. Know what you want your audience to take away from your presentation. Try to leave the audience with an understanding of what you're doing, why it's important, and what you hope to achieve. Revise what you're drafting, and you can do this in several ways. You can proof your 3MT presentation by reading it out loud to yourself and to an audience of friends and family. You can also practice by recording this presentation so that you can go back and critique and evaluate and refine the process. You can ask for feedback for anybody who is watching it either live or pre-recorded. And then make sure that when you're asking feedback that you ask your audience if your presentation clearly highlights what your research is about and why it's important. So you want to make sure that you're getting feedback from it. It can be sometimes challenging for our close family and friends to provide us honest feedback. So make sure that you are making this clear in the beginning. I need honest feedback. I need you to make sure that you are able to know why this is so important to me. And ask the questions that are considered, that will be considered when the judges are reviewing the criteria. For your 3MT slides, these are the actual rules. You can have one static PowerPoint slide in your presentation. You cannot have any slide transitions, animations, or movement of any kind. No additional electronic media, so nothing with sounds, and you cannot use a background on the slide. You have two options on the format that you can select for submitting your 3MT video. Option 1 is no slide or a slide insert. Option 2 is your slide can be, so you're going to have your video, but your slide can be positioned throughout your 3-minute oration on the right side, and it's called top right. So those are the only two acceptable formats for your slide, and we are going to be reviewing examples of those. This next requirement is a required slide to start off your presentation. So let's look at that. In the Google Drive folder, you will have access to this template. You have to use this template at the beginning of your 3-minute recording. You will replace the name and the college of, advisor, and your title with information that is relevant to what you're going to be presenting. So do not put name, semicolon in your name. Do not write 3MT title / and then list your title. You will replace that. So it should be your name. Texas Women's University should remain. And you will write college of, and then the name of your college. You will replace advisor, major, professor's name with this person's name and title. And then you will actually put your 3M title at the end of this slide. As I mentioned, this is a required slide. Your 3-minute video will start off with this slide. Once you start speaking, once you start moving, then your 3 minutes will start. Option 1. Option 1 is no slide or slide insert. So this is an example of what that would look like. You would be centered in the middle of your frame. So whatever your recording device is, you will be centered in the middle of that. And you want to make sure that you are equally centered between your left and your right. So something like this, you would not do. And something like this, you would not do. You want to make sure that you are equally centered within the parameters of your video. So let's look at this slide. I need somebody to please let me know if you're able to hear this. So let me click on this.
I want you to be very aware.
Yes, we can hear that.
Thank you very much. And it just kicked me out. Try this again. All right.
I want you to be very aware of your right big toe. Can you feel the tip of that toe? And if you are to lose sensation in that toe, how long do you think it would take you to notice? Our ability to feel sensation comes from our peripheral nerves, which are everywhere in the body. When these nerves become damaged, symptoms like a loss of feeling often start in the feet and in the toes. Gradually, these symptoms can spread and affect everyday activities. Like, imagine walking downstairs when you can't feel your feet. How unnerving would that be? Peripheral nerve damage can happen in many health conditions. Most commonly, it affects half of those with diabetes, and it's challenging to manage because currently there are no treatments that can stop or slow the processes of chronic nerve damage. And also, when we do study new treatments, our clinical tests cannot always detect if the smallest nerves in our body are actually improving. In my PhD, I want to help find a solution for managing peripheral nerve damage, but I want a solution that's safe and easily accessible for conditions like diabetes where this is a lifelong challenge. So what if there's an aspect of our diet that can help make a difference? Well, in our diet, one of the essential nutrients that our nerves need to grow and to function properly is long-chain omega-3 fatty acids. This is found mostly in fish and seafood. I found that healthy people who have more omega-3s in their blood could have healthier nerves. But whether omega-3 treatment can improve peripheral nerve health and diabetes has never been thoroughly investigated. So in the world's first clinical study of its kind, I am randomly assigning people with type 1 diabetes to receive 6 months of either omega-3 or placebo treatment. My research team and I will be measuring the changes in nerve structure and function, both in the hands and feet, and also in the eye. Why the eye? Well, because through the cornea, which is a clear and transparent layer that's in the front of the eye, we can actually see individual nerve fibers. And so it's the only place in the body where we can image them non-invasively without taking a painful biopsy. So I will use live imaging to visualize the smallest nerve fibers in the body through the eye and use this to measure if the nerves are improving over time. If shown effective, omega-3s could be a simple dietary modification for the long-term management of peripheral nerve disease. It has vast potential to reduce end-stage complications like amputation, so that the people who are at most risk for nerve damage, like those with diabetes, can keep feeling their toes.
So this is our first example. In this example, you can see that she starts off with her title slide. Then she starts speaking, and that's when her 3 minutes starts. And she actually goes all the way up until right under 3 minutes. Okay. So in here, this is the first example of a slide insert. So our title slide, and then her image, where is it? Did I pass it? Might have to play it because it's really, really quick, but it's for the image of the person walking down where she says, imagine you can't feel your feet. So that image comes in while she's speaking, and then it moves away. So this is considered a slide insert. You do not have to incorporate a slide insert. It just can enhance your presentation, and we'll go through, you know, what can be some pitfalls of including that, and then what can be some benefits. But you can just simply do your video speaking your whole 3 minutes. In that case, it would be your title slide and you speaking for 3 minutes, or it can be an insert, so your image just appears. If you select to have an image, remember that a single static slide is permitted in the presentation. The image that appears cannot have any transitions, animations, or movement of any description. So with the image that was used in this example, she had a person walking downstairs and the bottom of their foot was almost faded out. So she would have not been allowed to have the actual fading process appear within this, because then it would have been ruled out. This can be done visibly, consistently, or cut to as many times as you like for a minimum of 1 minute. So if this presenter chose to use this slide 2 times, it cannot stay on the screen longer than 1 minute. So just remember that your slide has to stay in there a minimum, well, a maximum of 1 minute and cannot go over 1 minute. And you can have the image in and out of your oration as many times as you like. Any questions? Let's look at the second example. The second option is top right. So this will be where you position yourself to the left of the screen and your right will have the image. So right about here. So let's look at an example of what top right looks like. Again, we're starting off with the title slide.
We were all little kids once, running around, playing hide and seek, trying to make sense of this world. Many of you already have kids and others plan to have them at some point. Yet we all have those hopes and dreams that our children will thrive and prosper. Now, you might give birth to a totally healthy child, but while it grows up, their brain develops slightly different compared to the other children on the playground. First, you notice it is really active and a bit impatient. And at the latest, when it starts school, you admit, no, it really has difficulties to sit still and cannot focus on homework. So, of course, you would go to the specialist and they might say, your child has ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So what do you do now? Most likely you'll put your child on medication, Ritalin or Medicaid. But so far, scientists don't even have a clear answer to what in the brain is causing these complex symptoms. And medication is not necessarily that effective. So researchers like me want to find out what is it in the brain that is structurally different in those children. But let me picture the brain first. The brain consists of billions of neurons arranged into very specialized structures. There are long nerve bundles deep inside the brain, a little bit like the motorways of the brain. And then there are less structured nerves. These are more on the surface and are a little bit like the streets in the cities. And the motorways connect the cities, and this is how they communicate. Now, many people in the field believe that these nerve bundles deep inside the brain are impaired in children with ADHD. And to find this out, we would do research with brain scans. And now comes the issue. So we have to put children that are hyperactive and impulsive into a scanner, this huge tube, and ask them not to move for at least 15 or 20 minutes. What I found out is that their scans are much more corrupted by motion. They're sort of blurred. What I also found out is that the more motion there is, the more likely these deep nerve bundles appear to be impaired, even in children without ADHD, and even when correcting for the motion and this blurriness. Therefore, in my PhD, I want to find out what impact motion really has on the scan quality, and knowing that, I try to replicate some previous studies of ADHD, but this time taking into account that there is this remaining error for motion when assessing the health of these deep nerve bundles. With that, I aim to either back up what we know so far about the brain structure in ADHD, or encourage to reconsider the impact motion really has, also in previous studies, because being certain about research results is key in getting a better picture of the disorder, and having a clear picture of ADHD can help us in improving therapies and interventions to make sure that there's really nothing in the way for your children to thrive and prosper.
So let's look at this example. So within this example, she starts off with her title slide. This is the required part. And then her image is just stationary on the right-hand side. So this is top right. So you wouldn't put it at the bottom of the screen. You wouldn't put it on the left. It has to go in top right. There is no movement in her slide, there in her image. There's no movement, there's no audio. It is just an image. Now you can see that the person here looks like they're moving. That's fine because that's part of the image, but it cannot physically be moving as she's speaking. So you don't want to distract from the oration. So this is the second example. Do we have any questions? So it is really up to you. You don't have to let me know which option you're doing. You just have to make sure that you are following the guidelines within each one of these options that you choose. For your slide, if you choose to use an image for your presentation, if you choose to use a slide, then remember less is more. If you put too much text, it's going to take away from what you are saying, and your audience might get stuck or distracted reading or trying to understand what is in the slide image versus paying attention to what you're saying. So you definitely don't want to take away and distract your audience from your spoken word. If you have any personal touches you would like to add, you're more than welcome to do this, but keep it simple. Personal touches can allow your audience to understand the impact of your research. So here they're asking these two different questions, and they're giving the example of the image. There's visible images of the two, and these are all taken from prior competitions. Creativity drives interest. So if you are to just see a plain image, then you want to make sure that your audience does not rely on the slide to convey the message. It should only supplement. So it shouldn't simply, it should simply complement your spoken oration. So they should not be able to determine your intent, your research, your, your findings or your intended findings with that image. It is just a complement to what you are speaking, what is in your oration. So work your message. I know this image is a little blurry. I tried to blow it up, but that is the clearest it could get. Think about how your slide might be able to assist with the format and delivery of the presentation. Is there a metaphor that explains your research? So this is just an image that's going to explain to the audience brainwaves that predict the future. And it does not have arrows, but you can see the transition as this happens. So it can be an aid in this way to the oration. When you are presenting, you need to make sure that you are aware of these two areas. You would need to make sure that you are speaking clearly, that you are not rushing through the material that you're trying to cover within the 3 minutes, and that you find a rhythm. It's okay at times to slow down. Paying attention to the speed and how you deliver. If you are speaking in a softer tone, that will not come across as enthusiastic as somebody who is speaking a little bit louder. So make sure that you are presenting yourself and your oration in a fashion that can pick up on your excitement. Again, don't rush. Remember to pause when you get to key things that you're talking about or transitioning. You want to make sure that you are also paying attention to your body language. In today's presentation, you can basically see from my shoulders up. If you're showing, half of your body or from your waist up, you don't want to be fidgeting. You don't want your arms moving around if it's not part of your intention. If you are recording while you are sitting in your chair, make sure that you are not swiveling. Make sure that you are not bouncing, reclining, anything like that. You want to pay attention to your body language. You want to make sure that you stand straight and you stand confidently. You hold your head up and that you make eye contact. If you are filming into a laptop and your laptop is not at eye level, use some books or use a box or something to bring it to eye level so that your audience, when they view that, they can get the connection that is intended. If you are presenting and you're using a larger board and you know that you're going to have your image to the right, if you're doing top right, you don't want to turn away because your voice goes down and then you lose eye contact. So you need to make sure to pay attention to things like that. Make sure that you are going through practice about how you're going to be using your hands. So if you do choose to use your hands as motions, as guides, make sure that you are strategic about that and you are not relaying or conveying a sign that you don't want to. Sometimes, the thumbs up, sometimes the thumbs down. If you're using that, that is fine. But if you don't intend to do things like that, then make sure you're aware of that. Our second example had a lot of examples of her hand motions and gestures to engage the audience in what she was conveying, and that is okay. Just make sure that it is intentional. Do not make mistakes like rolling your eyes, looking in a different direction, pacing, jittery, anything like that. Once you do your recording, make sure that you go back and that you look for these things. So it's going to take more than one take. You're going to identify, too much movement, not enough, not speaking loudly enough, the lighting didn't work, things like this. So it's going to take practice, but that is going to get you to your ultimate goal of having a submission that you would like to present. So before you record your presentation, just practice, practice with clarity, practice your confidence. And getting to know when you're going to pause, when you're going to use visual cues with your hand movements, things like that. In the areas that you see, if you tend to use filler words a lot, be aware of that so that when you do present, those filler words are not taking away from your 3-minute oration. Okay? Any questions? It's going to feel nervous in the beginning. If you've never had to record yourself and watch yourself later, just get used to it. Just start this process early with recording. Do a dry run. Just say, here's what I think I'm going to do, right? And then just do the recording, and then you're like, I used a lot of filler words. I moved too much. I did this. Identify what those challenges are so that you have a plan of action moving forward on how to decrease, eliminate, or make up for those things. Dress code. There is not a dress code for your recording. So when you do your 3 minutes, there's not a dress code, but you want to make sure that you are wearing something comfortable and something easy on the eyes. So if you are wearing a lot of patterns or something that is unusual type of attire, it might take away from your oration. And our goal is to make sure that what you're trying to communicate is clearly received by your audience. If you can tell, I am wearing a TWU shirt with a logo. You want to avoid wearing anything with the logo, any name tags, anything like this on your dress, so that it is on your attire, so that it is not considered an accessory or a costume or anything like that, as props are not allowed within your presentation. When it comes time to record, here are just a couple of items that can help ensure that you have the best recording. And you want to look at things like location. Right now, where I am presenting from, I have a very busy background. I've got windows, I've got buildings, I've got a printer, I've got a picture, I've got a couple pictures. You want to make sure that none of that is included. So you want to find a surface that has a clear background, not a clear, but a background that is free and clear of things that are going to take away from your presentation. So it should be a solid wall, a solid color, something that will help to bring in light. So do not try to tape or record your video in front of a dark colored wall, because we want to make sure that you are presentable as well. You want to make sure that lighting is sufficient. So right now I do have a light over my camera. When my lighting goes off, this is what it looks like. Even with this, it's still not the best lighting, but you're going to have to play around with when and where you record, and you're going to have to play around with sufficient lighting. So if you're recording at night, you're going to need more light versus in the day, and how to control that. So make sure that you pick an area that really accentuates where you're at. You want to pay attention to sounds. If you have to record at work and it is during the lunch hour and there are people moving around, you don't want that excess noise in your video. If you're doing practice runs, that's fine. But when you do your submission, you should not have additional sounds in your recording. Let's say, for instance, you work within a school environment and you're going to record within your 3 minutes. If there are bells going off overhead, a fire alarm, announcements, anything like that, you want to make sure that that does not come out in your presentations. So maybe waiting till later on in the day where you can do the recording would be your best option. Again, your background, location. If you are near airports, I don't know if you can hear right now, I'm going to pause. There are sirens in the background. I am in the medical center here in Houston, Texas. So sirens are a common theme here. So I would want to make sure not to record here. I cannot control the external environment. I can take a chance and record and hope they don't come out, that they're not passing or the sirens aren't going off while I'm recording. But if you want to find a secure location to say, yeah, no, there's not going to be any airplanes. There's not going to be anybody cutting the grass. There's not going to be anybody knocking on the door. Make sure that all of that is eliminated so that it does not come through when you actually submit your video. Your camera. Make sure that your camera is positioned horizontally, not vertically, because that'll impact how you how your final product comes out. Make sure that you have a clear focus. Sometimes cameras or recording devices can be set to an automatic focus, so you don't want that process to occur during your 3 minutes. So where it's refocusing and adjusting, make sure that that feature is not on. And then you want to look at proximity. How close are you to your camera? How far away? What's being recorded within those 3 minutes? So make sure that you're paying attention. It's just a basic checklist of some things that can help to make your video the best. These are a couple of options. These are just recommendations that you can use, but you can use any device that records. So you can use Windows, you can use a Mac, you can use any feature. We do have a couple of online tools and we have direct links to training videos on how to use these, but you can also record within Zoom. What you can't do within Zoom is to add a video. So if you choose to do that first option with the slide insert, you're going to need to use something like the Veed.io, which is a free software where it will edit the video to the slide or the image to come in and out. So this will take some practice, so don't wait till the last minute. If you do plan to incorporate an image within an image or a slide within your oration of your 3 minutes, make sure that you're familiar. But like I said, we do have some training videos on how to get this process done if you plan on incorporating a slide, or if you choose option 2 with the slide that is stationed at the top right. I'm just not available to do it for you or to guide you through that process, but we do have tools that can guide you through that process. If there's any other editing formats or platforms that you are comfortable using, you're more than welcome to use those. Likewise, you can forward that to me and I can add that to our list for students to use as well as recommendations. When it comes time to submitting your video, you are going to save your video as last name, first name, and 3MT. What I would recommend is if you know that you are using a certain software and you want to make sure that it is something that I can check, you just do a test video, dump it into or upload it into your personal Google Drive that you will be assigned, and it'll be a quick video. Hi, this is Christine. I am trying this video software. I don't know if it's going to work or not. Can you let me know if you can, open it on your end? So I would be happy to confirm that for you so that you can move forward with using that platform. Or if it does save in a format that I'm not able to access, which has happened. I've had students who wait till the last minute and they submit something and I don't have that software that they used, so I'm not able to open a video. Thus, they're not able to be judged. Their content was not able to be judged when it came time to the judges reviewing that. So send me a test file, just let me know. I'd be happy to open that up on my end and see if it is something that can be opened. You will upload the following items to your 3MT Google video. It is going to be the recorded video. That's 1. 2 is your title slide. This is your slide with your name, your title, your department, and your advisor in Texas Women's University. So that required slide, it's going to be saved as a separate file. That's item 2 that needs to be saved. Item 3, for those of you who choose to use an image, you are going to save it as a separate file. Okay, that is going to be the 3MT slide. Whatever that image is going to be, it needs to be saved here. So if you choose to do option 1, where it is an insert, then that image would need to be saved here. If you choose to do option 2 with the image on your right-hand side, then that image would need to be saved here. If you choose not to use an image, then you don't have to worry about this last requirement. Judging, as we start to receive all of our 3MT submissions and we get to that deadline of October the 5th at noon, then I will start communicating to our judges that judging will now commence. It takes about a week for them to judge and for us to tally up all of the votes with all the different people that will be competing. Then notifications will come out in about a week or just about a week. And those notifications will come first through phone. I will try to contact everybody through phone, whether they placed or not. I will still call everybody and then I will send an email to confirm, if they placed or not. All of the information for our winners will be posted on our 3MT website and it will be shared on our social media platforms. So what's next? So next will be once I have confirmed for those students who are not actively in a thesis or dissertation class, figuring out where they are in that process, if they have enough information to proceed, you will receive access to the Google Drive with this recording. So both of the recordings from today, our information session and our prep session. You will get the PDF of these copies, a PDF copy of this presentation and the one before. You will receive the template for the 3MT title slide, as well as the links to the softwares, the platforms for editing videos and recording videos, and the examples of option 1 and option 2. You will need to notify your major advisor of your participation in 3MT, and that is because I'm going to send a follow-up email with your title, your 3MT title, and they're going to be included in that email. So if you have not notified them yet that you're participating in 3MT, it'd be just a good idea just to touch bases with them, let them know that you've decided to compete in our 3-minute thesis competition. Then I will need you to submit the following 2 documents to my email, and that is the consent form for University of Queensland and for Texas Women's University. So if you'd like to submit those, you can. If you don't, then we won't share your information on our website or social media, but I need to know that you're not submitting them. All right, do we have any questions? I do want to let you know that I am available to you by phone or text. This number does receive text messages and phone calls. If you leave me a message, it sends a recording to my computer so I can access that. So do know that I do get recorded messages, so I'm able to follow up with you. You can reach me by email. I can set a Zoom meeting up for us. I want to be there to support you in any way that I can. If you are just having a hard time getting started, or once you've started, you just need some feedback, bring me in this process. That is what I'm here for. I'm here to support you and guide you and ensure that you have a video to submit by October the 5th. If you are a student who has a lot on your plate, and sometimes it can be challenging to schedule time to do the work that you're going to need to do for your video, please reach out to me so we can come up with a plan. We can look at creating an outline, setting due dates, and all that fun stuff to help you get through this process. Thank you for joining. Thank you for your interest in our 3-minute theses competition. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to stop our recording. So give me a second.